Welcome back to Alien Cocoons, Episode 7. It was time to engage the enemy. I took aim at the closest alien behind Tim. I shot about the same time I heard Dad engage the ones coming in the front. I dropped the first one. I then took aim at the second one as it turned to run. Before I could shoot, I heard a shot from the trees. One of the aliens hit the ground in front of me. Tim and Joe were running at me by then. Dad said, "Tell them to get in here," as they cleared the door. Dad already had the floor and hatch open. Everyone was on their way down, so I closed up behind me. Dad was already debriefing Jasmine. She told him they had been around the whole time. She said they had been watching from the trees and slowly trying to destroy the cabin. It was as if they knew someone was still there. We had walked into a trap. Both Joe and Tim were taking it all in. Joe loved our security. Tim thought the food was a great idea. At this point, food and sleep sounded great, but we had unwanted visitors outside. We needed a way out. We couldn't just wait them out. We had people to save. Dad was already working on something. He was piling up wires and batteries. He started looking for tools. Joe was watching the monitors when he asked, "How many of these things will this bunker keep out?" We all turned to look. We counted 21 that we could see. They weren't going to give up this time. They were going to tear the cabin apart one board at a time. Dad went to work. We all helped. We built a form of taser. The problem was we had no way of delivering it. This meant we had to get close to use it. Not good. We had to work on a way to get it to touch a ship. We were trading ideas when Mike said, "I think they're about to work on the cabinet." We watched as they removed parts of the cabin, board by board. Dad ran over to the hatch. We followed. Suddenly we didn't feel so safe. Dad asked for a flashlight and a flathead screwdriver. I grabbed them, wondering where this was going. Dad used the screwdriver to poke around the handle to open up the hatch. Then he went back to watch them. He studied them for a few minutes, then said, "I need an extension cord." Okay. He had lost me, but he seemed to have this figured out. We searched and found two. Dad cut the end off one. He returned to the hatch. Mike said, "They're almost to the cabinet." We all turned to look. Dad kept working but asked, "They still grouping together before they make a move?" We all looked and he was right. When they stopped, they all bunched up and then they went on to something else. It reminded me of a football huddle. Dad ran over and grabbed more tools. We were all just watching them. Dad kept working and said, "It looks like they have a collective mind, almost like something far away is controlling them." I could see it now. They seemed to be moving in unison, like with one mind. I kept thinking, were these things being remotely controlled? We knew they were some kind of machine, but the one we had watched had something alive in it. Were these beings some kind of collective? Dad finished and walked over. He switched the cameras back to the outside of the cabin. We couldn't see any more spiders outside. Dad pointed at the screen. There was a shadow of a ship outside. It seemed to be hovering. Suddenly, it just appeared on the ground. Dad said there should be 3 more. We had counted 21 and shot 3, so this made sense. He switched the cameras back. The aliens were huddled again. They turned and started on the stove. Their claws were actually tearing the metal of the stove. Not good. Our hatch was steel that was made to withstand a blast, but we didn't know just how strong their claws were. The stove began to look like chipped metal. I was worried. When I looked at Dad, he was smiling. I asked why. He said, "I think they have to combine their strength." He might be right. He said, kind of like a battery. One battery can handle the small jobs, but something harder, they combine their energy by linking up. We need that. He had lost me again. We watched as they made their way across the kitchen, finally reaching our cabinet. Again they huddled. Then they started on the cabinet. They were slowed by the construction. It was much stronger than the rest of the kitchen. It was a steel frame covered in wood with a track and roller system. When they discovered this, one of the black ones released a silver ball. It hovered over what was left of the track system. Soon, 2 more silver balls joined it. They seemed to study the track and floor area. After a few minutes, the aliens huddled again. I could just imagine all the clicking going on. They all gathered around the track system again. One of them slowly pulled up the end of one of the tracks. They were going slow now. We were barely breathing. It wouldn't take long now. Next, they started pulling up the floor. 1 board, 2nd board, 3rd board. As soon as they grabbed the 4th board, the floor activated and slid under the rest of the floor. They weren't expecting this. They all jumped back 2 feet. They all just stood there looking at the hole. They didn't move any closer. What a bunch of chickens. Joe asked if we had a speaker so we could yell, "Boo." This really eased the tension. They released the balls again. Even the balls were slow to approach the hole in the floor. Dad suddenly ran for the steps. 3 silver balls hovered over the hole in the floor. They slowly disappeared below the floor as a group. I wish we had a camera that would show what they were doing. No one made a sound. They finally appeared above the floor. The aliens grouped around the hole. 2 of them slowly crawled down. We could hear them scratching on the hatch. Soon 2 more joined in. They were really scratching now. Soon they were all bunched up over, around, and in the hole. The hatch seemed to be holding, so far. Suddenly the scratching stopped. They all moved back from the hole and huddled again. Then they all just stood there, almost like they were put on pause. They stayed like that for so long, we went back to building tasers. Joe and Mike kept an eye on the aliens. Jasmine and Tim were cooking. All seemed normal until Joe and Mike both said, "Something's happening." We gathered around the monitors. There were 2 more ships in the yard. 12 more aliens were making their way into the cabin. I was beginning to get a little worried. I looked at Dad. He was smiling. He looked at me and said, "I bet that's all they have. 6 ships and 33 soldiers. We are going to make this hurt." Was Dad losing his mind? We all stood there watching them huddle. They seemed to be discussing a plan to get in the hatch. 33 of them looked daunting. The kitchen was full, and so was the living room. The black ones seemed to take the lead. They approached the hole first. The 28 other ones followed them, then started climbing on one another. Dad moved over to the hatch. I started to follow, but he stopped me. He told me to watch the aliens and let him know what they were doing. The black ones were beginning to move toward the hole. The massive gray ones were moving in one single mass behind them. 2 of the gray ones made a link between the group of black ones and the mass of gray ones. I could hear them trying to get in. This time they were really going at it. Suddenly, everything went black. If you like this, hit the like button, subscribe, and hit the notifications bell. Thank you.